Kevin Spacey was on the Piers Morgan show and did a sit-down hour interview. It was the first time he really got lanky about his sexual misconduct suits against him, and he reveals that basically he has nothing to hide in his life anymore. He's an open book, and he says that he can't pay his bills, which was pretty wild to hear. You think an actor like that who's been very successful had some sort of money that he couldn't pay his bills, but his house in Baltimore is up for foreclosure. Welcome to the Hollywood Raw Podcast, Raw Rundown. My name is Adam Glyn. Not here today is Dax Holt. Dax is in Europe living the good life. Instead, I'm here with U.S. Sun senior reporter Jessica Finn, a friend. I'm a fan. How you doing, Jessica?
I'm doing great, Adam. Thanks so much for letting me join. I'm sorry that Dax couldn't be with us here today, but I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here because you have some intake on what's going on some of the biggest stories that's going on in Hollywood today, especially being at the U.S. Sun. You guys are breaking a lot of stories, and this week was a good week for you guys because you guys at the U.S. Sun broke some big news, and we're going to get into those stories. How long, Jessica, have you been in the entertainment business now?
Oh God, I've been in news for. Oh my God, I've been in news for 20 years. 2024, 21 years. So I've been doing news for 21 years. But I've been doing entertainment news for closer to like 12. I started at TMZ in 2009 after doing local news in New York. Once I started reporting on celebrities and realizing how much more fun that was than like horrible building fires, I just never looked back. And I've been doing it for over a decade now.
So here's the thing. You work in tabloids, you work in entertainment news. When you deal with celebrities, do they look at you as a bully, are they scared about you, or do they want to have a relationship with you? Because it's a balance between two sides. Like, I'm also scared of you because I'm afraid you're gonna write something bad because it's my career, but also I need you in a way. So have you noticed, what's your relationship when you deal with the publicists and the celebrities? Are they cool with you, or what's the vibe like over the years?
I feel like anybody, to be like really honest, I feel like anybody that's worked with me that knows me knows that I'm like a reasonable, fair reporter that's just trying to kind of get things as accurate as possible. When you're meeting somebody for the first time, they definitely have like a certain view about what you do and what your job is. Like I've came into contact with celebrities and who have been particularly crappy towards me, on the carpet, let's say, just because of my outlet or where I'm reporting from. So it really just depends on, like, if you have a relationship with somebody, typically people are more receptive to, working with you once they get to know you and get to know, kind of how you roll. But off the cuff interactions with celebrities can be pretty prickly for sure.
Yeah, I have the same thing. There's some people I have a good relationship with, and then sometimes when there's a new publicist or even a new celebrity, they're on guard, and I get it. But I hope I'm like, hey man, like, if you don't do anything rough, there's nothing really to worry about. Like, I mean, and rarely is there anything really bad or any. It's just like, I'm in the promotion business at the end of the day, and that's what I love about the entertainment news business. Like, again, you worked in real news, then now you're in entertainment news. You're in entertainment news. And like you said, dealing with fires and wars, and then you go into like pop culture. It's just more fun. It's like high school, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely like high school. I interviewed one celebrity who was a new celebrity on the carpet. I'm not going to say her name, Jen Alliance, but she was not she was not the friendliest. And I'm like, lady, you just got on the Housewives. Like, I didn't care about you a year ago. You just got on the Housewives. Like, you should be nice to us. Like, there's no reason to be, not nice to celebrity reporters on a carpet. Like, you're supposed to be promoting the Housewives the Real Housewives of New York. So I think that maybe new celebrity also comes with a certain level of like distrust and mistrust of the media, where it's really kind of, I think, maybe not always warranted.
Yeah, you've worked a lot of carpets, obviously, in your work history. Who has been the nicest celebrity on the carpet? The one who gives their time on the red carpet, they're just charismatic. You get why they're a star. Who's that person? Like, Yeah, they deserve to be in that position.
You know,
When they're on the red
I
carpet, they work it. They're like, man, they stop for every reporter. They give their time. They're happy to be there. They sell what they're selling. I mean, I'll tell you I always think, there's always stories about Tom Cruise is really good on the red carpet because he stops for every
yeah.
reporter and makes sure everyone gets their minute. Um, you know, I don't know. I don't know
I
who the other
haven't
way
had
is.
enough I haven't had enough experience on the red carpet to kind of I've done like carpets here and there, but I haven't done a boatload of them to say. But there are certain celebrities who are like, if you have a phone call with them, they're super gracious. I had
Yeah.
an interview with Billy Ray Cyrus years ago, and it was to this day one of the best interviews I've ever had. I must have spent an hour on the phone with him. Like super cool, super great. After I got off the phone, everybody in the office was laughing at my new connection with him. So it was that was a really great interview. But some people, I do a lot of phone stuff, so like some
Yeah. Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
dicks. Justin Bieber, I interviewed him briefly. He was a dick, but he was also 16, so I can't really hold that against him. Like I think all 16-year-olds are probably dicks. Um, yeah, it depends on like the context and the celebrity, right? Like and I think it also comes down to like clicking with somebody too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
No.
you know, clicking with a 16-year-old kid versus Billy Ray Cyrus as a grown working woman, are two different things.
Yeah. Well, good news, Jessica. We're going to get into Billy Ray Cyrus because he made the Raw Rundown this week. This might be one of the few times he's ever made our top 10 stories of the week for our Raw Rundown. So we're going to get into Billy Ray Cyrus because he made some news this week. What is the Raw Rundown? We pick out the top 10 stories of the week. How do we find out the top 10 stories? It goes by data. It goes by Google search. And lastly, it goes by our personal opinions, but mostly it goes by the data. It goes by what people are clicking on. And Jessica will tell you, when you work for a media outlet, they're watching to see what stories people click on, and when people are clicking on, they're going to keep jumping on those stories, keep working on those stories that people are clicking on. It's just how it kind of works, and it's interesting. I have a friend of mine who works for a different outlet than the U.S. Sun, and they said, like, I asked him, why do you do so many Pete Davidson stories? He goes, you understand the traffic we get on Pete Davidson. People are very curious, they're very interested on Pete. So, but yeah, we figured out the top 10 stories of the week. It goes on the data. So let's get to the Raw Rundown with Jessica Finn of the U.S. Sun. Jessica, again, thank you for coming out. And check out the U.S. Sun. They break tons of stories. They got a really good news team over there. Let's start with number 10, Chase Crawford. Remember him from Gossip Girls? Now he's on that show, The Boys, which is a huge success. Well, he did a podcast recently with Call Her Daddy. I always say Call Me Daddy, but he did with Alex Cooper, Call Her Daddy. And he got pretty candid on this interview. And I say pretty candid, not really candid, because I'll get into it. He talks about in this interview, he reveals if he's ever hooked up with a Gossip Girl co-star, where the cast stands. They talk about the dating, the viral bulge. He talks about a lot of stuff. But I like interviews like this because you don't hear from him often. I'm sick of hearing interviews with the same people. I like to hear interviews with people that are a little bit more interesting, a little bit more random. So, and I'm sure a guy like Chase Crawford has a lot of things going on in his life. So Chase Crawford, by the way, when I started TMZ, I started in New York. You were in New York. Gossip Girl was the biggest show. Was it not, Jessica?
Yeah, it was a pretty massive running. They were running around New York. I mean, it was a great show for us to be covering.
Yeah, it was a very big show, did very well. You'd always hear
Yeah.
about these kids running around New York. It took over.
Mhm.
I never heard of him before, but he was like the star of New York, and everyone would see sightings of him and Leighton Meester and Penn Badgley. And he basically says in this interview on Call Her Daddy that there was a lot of relationships and hooking up on the show that behind the scenes that you didn't know. Now, we do know that Ed Westwick did hook up, was dating Jessica Cesar. Penn Badgley was dating Leighton Meester. But he says he did have a little bit of a relationship with one of his co-stars, but he won't reveal the name of the co-star. He also says that he was surprised by the fame of the show. He said it did make him very paranoid, to be honest. Slightly, he says, I don't want to say it was this terrible thing. It was fun, but like you said, people come out of the woodwork. Obviously he's on the show called The Boys right now. People, I think, just this interview brought back the how big Gossip Girl was. People loved the show. They loved the excitement of it. They were the new young stars. It was kind of the pre-social media. He also talks about it in this interview that he was on Raya. He just joined Raya recently, and he doesn't really have a dating life, but he likes browsing on Raya. He is a little bit of he's a heartthrob right now. He does keep in touch, he says in this interview, with some of the Gossip Girl cast. He says, we all text sometimes. He goes, I just spoke to Penn Badgley recently. I always try to make time with Blake Lively, which, by the way, I had a Gossip Girl. This was my Gossip Girl moment. It was a Sunday night in New York City. I go into a bodega to get a drink, and I ran into Leighton Meester and Penn Badgley. They were dating at the time. And I was like, whoa. And I was getting a drink because I was doing a comedy show around the corner. And I was like, oh, there's Leighton Meester and Penn Badgley in a bodega. It was so random. And I was like, hey, guys, would you guys I just said, hey to them. And they thought they knew me. The way I came up to them, Jess, was like this energy, like, hey, what's up, guys? And they're like, hey, how you doing? But they didn't know who I was. And they just started like, I was like, hey, I'm doing a comedy show around the corner. Do you guys want to come? And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll come. And I brought Blake Lively and I'm sorry, it wasn't Leighton, it was Penn Badgley. So I brought Blake Lively and Penn Badgley to my comedy show. They came, they sat in the back, they watched my comedy show. They're like, hey, you're really good. And that was it. That was my Gossip Girl moment. They just watched my show for free. And then we never kept in touch again. I ran into Penn Badgley. I reminded him of the situation. He didn't even remember it. So that was my.
It seems like they had a really fun time in New York. I mean, they were hot, young, like the hottest, youngest things around, right? Like
it was the best time to be a star because it was like on the pre-social media. Like social media started to get a little bit of kind of 2010-ish. Like there was a little bit of going on in social media, but not much. So they're able to get that traction. However, they weren't able to they were able to stay a little bit hidden. Am I right? Like they weren't, they're a little bit disguised. And then also the cast was good looking. They're dating each other. It was just a very New York show, and it came at the perfect time. And a lot of these shows just came out of timing. So it's just a rare interview for Chase Crawford, and people are just excited to hear from him because he doesn't do a lot of interviews. So I met him at a bar one time, Chase Crawford. And I was at a wedding, and we went to a bar between the church and the wedding party. And it was a random bar too. And he was daytime drinking. Asked him for a photo. He took a photo of me and the guy. Super cool guy. Random story, people, I know, but I'm going to be honest with you. Slow news week. It's not that great of a news week.
It's been a struggle, I got to say. I mean, even over at the Sun, the last couple of weeks, it's like that summer lull.
Yeah. You know? People are lazy right now. I'm not going to lie. People are starting to take their summer vacations a little early. All right, let's get to the number 9 story, Jess. Rob Schneider, comedian Rob Schneider, has brutally slammed actor Will Smith. He did a radio show, and he was asked about the 94th Academy Awards where Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and he goes off on Will Smith. He bases Will Smith is a twat, which... funny word. I haven't heard that word in a while.
Great word.
I haven't heard that word in a while. Will Smith is a twat. Will Smith has been hiding the fact of who he really is, and it was exposed the night that he's really an asshole. He also says, but it's a deep, dark thing to do that in front of all those people and to a really great, legendary comedian who's literally the best comedian of our generation. You wouldn't have this whole wave of comedy that came after it wasn't for Chris Rock. He kicked open the doors. So, I mean, he also said, I wasn't allowed to say anything about this at the time because we're part of the committee that's supposed to punish him because I guess he was on the committee as far as the academy, I guess, because he is part of the academy. But he said Rob Schneider says of Will Smith, he's a liar, a complete, utter fraud, and it was exposed in that time. I mean, Rob Schneider.
This was such a great. I mean, talk about speaking from your heart. Like he just seems so impassioned about what went down, and really it was obviously very screwed up what happened to Chris, and Will Smith should have been in trouble. And I'm a big fan of Rob's after this last rant, although he's been very controversial this month, which is unusual for him. We don't really hear a lot of controversy coming from Rob Schneider typically.
Rob Schneider is like an interesting guy. He's a comedian. He's an actor. He's obviously part of the Adam Sandler, Happy Gilmore production team in a way. And you would think a guy like him, because he works with Sandler, is sort of like, just be quiet, do the job, and show up and be on time. And just he's a friend of Sandler, so Sandler takes good care of him. And listen, the guy's had a great career. So, but being very vocal about this type of stuff can hurt him. And it sounds like he doesn't care. In fact, if you've been following Rob Schneider, which I don't know how many people have, but he's been very vocal about his political views. He's been on Fox News a lot. He's been on Tucker Carlson. He's got a relationship with them. I mean, on Twitter, he's I don't want to say he's a very conservative, but he's not, I don't want to say like total on that side conservative. I just think he's very opinionated and not afraid to share his thoughts. And you would think a guy like Sandler, because he's so down the middle and doesn't want to take a side, that he would almost put a muzzle on Rob Schneider. But, Rob let it out that he is, down to talk and willing to say a lot of stuff. So he also said Will's a douchebag. The thing is that how politically correct the Academy is, that they were so cowardly, because I would have done that. They would have been hauled off to prison, but because they were so worried about being racist or whatever they were like, we can't offend. But the point is, violence is what it is. Whether the color of your skin is your religion, it doesn't matter. If you commit a crime in front of other people, you get hauled out of there. I mean, he's not wrong. Yeah, and
he's not wrong.
Someone else that they would get arrested. Surprisingly, he did not get arrested, but also Chris Rock.
He didn't even get kicked out.
He did not get kicked out.
Sit there.
Yeah, he didn't get kicked out. But I think if it was Chris Rock, it ultimately came down to Chris Rock. And Chris Rock said, hey, press charges. I want him arrested. They would have to do something. If he called the police, you can't stop it. So,
yeah.
Number 8, I know you love this story. Your friend Billy Ray Cyrus, Jess. Billy Ray Cyrus. Yeah, he has filed for divorce from his wife after 7 months of marriage. He kind of alleges that there's inappropriate marital conduct. Billy Ray Cyrus, the country star, father of Miley Cyrus, was the ex-husband of Tish Cyrus, but Billy is 62. He's divorcing his wife, who's an Australian musician, Johanna Firerose Hodges. She's 34, so he's 62. She's 34. After less than a year of marriage, they're getting divorced. They listed the separation date as May 22nd, 2024. Basically how he's saying, he's reportedly asking the court for an annulment and is claiming the marriage to Firerose was obtained by fraud, which I don't really understand that. Basically, Cyrus will pay Firerose $5,000 per month so she can find suitable housing in Tennessee for a period of 90 days or until the divorce is finalized. Tough.
This is crazy. I mean,
before we started this, you told me you love this case. Why do you love this story?
So, first of all, I followed Billy Ray and Tish, right? They were married for forever, and then they got divorced multiple times. Like, I think they got divorced 2 or 3 times before officially finalizing their divorce, right? So, like, I have followed the Cyrus divorce drama for probably close to a decade. That's how long he's been trying to, he and Tish were on and off. And then to hear that there's a new case, and it's this 7-month marriage, and clearly he's alleging some kind of improper behavior by Firerose. And it almost seems like, I don't know if he's trying to claim she never really loved him. I mean, that whole idea of saying that the marriage was based on fraud. I think that alludes to a larger problem, not just I caught her cheating this one time, in the sense of improper marital misconduct, but that the marriage was based on fraud. Just seems like such a bigger accusation than an allegation of a random incident of cheating or something like that. So I'm very much interested in this story, and this relationship that he had with Firerose certainly caused some sort of rift in the family. Miley has not been talking to him since the marriage. She wasn't at the wedding. So there's that drama. And then when you bring into account Noah Cyrus, the sister, Miley's sister, so Noah's still friends with Billy, but Noah and her mother are reportedly beefing because she is married to Dominic Purcell, and Noah Cyrus was allegedly dating Dominic at some point before Mama Cyrus married him. So there's all of this marital drama, and it's very much in the family strange. It's just strange in the family marital drama that's happening between both of the parents. So I think it's incredible and it's fantastic. And then Billy also did a post just before it was announced that he and Fire Rose were divorcing, commemorating his relationship with Miley, and it was very out of character. He'd been showing all of these like PDA photos with Fire Rose on his Instagram, and then all of a sudden they're deleted, and there's this photo of him and Miley as a child, and he's saying how much he loves her. And I think that probably was the impetus before somebody was like, oh my god, where are all the Fire Rose photos, and he wasn't speaking to Miley, and let me take a look at this. And that's probably how the divorce broke. But yeah, I'm obsessed with all of the Cyrus family drama because it is a lot. There's a lot going on there.
There is so much going on there. And actually, we are going to get into Miley in a little bit. But he, again, on the record, he states that the reason for divorce, it's irreconcilable differences and inappropriate marital conduct as the reasons for the split. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot more there. We'll see if Fire Rose kind of speaks up and wants to give her side, or if she signed an NDA. Right now, she's only getting $5,000 a month for housing in Tennessee, which $5,000 a month in Tennessee, she could live all right, and yeah, you can find a good apartment for $5,000 a month in Tennessee, I'm sure. Because you could find, if you're doing let's say $3,000 a month in New York City, you can find you a decent apartment. $5,000 in Tennessee must be really nice. So she's going to be set up pretty decent until everything and I'm sure there was some sort of contract before he actually went down the aisle with her. So, all right, let's get to number 7, Seth Meyers. Seth Meyers, NBC's hurting. Bottom line, NBC, the people aren't watching TV the ones they did. So Seth Meyers is going to have to lose his late night band due to budget cuts. So NBC is cutting in the fall, they're going to get rid of the HG band, a signature element of the show. They've been with the show since 2014. And in the fall, they're going to have no more band. The band was actually informed in recent weeks that the band would cease to be a regular part of the program due to budget cuts. I was trying to think of how much does the band really cost? It's not just the band. There's a whole crew that works with the band. So there's a lot of people employed. I think it's the easy way for them to cut the budget. Easy is not the right word. And that comes from statements from one of the band members, Eli Janney, who's the keyboardist. You never really think about how much those bands cost. I do. I love
this story is great. Stuff. I mean, when you think of canned music and people wanting to cut budget or save budgets for something, you think of canned music on Broadway. You don't think of canned music being part of a major network production. This isn't this is NBC. This is NBC. It's not I mean, it's crazy to think yes, how much could the band have cost? But at the same time, really,
that's where they're going to make it
seem so cheap.
It's so funny where to cut costs. Oh, let's cut the band. And I mean, listen, it sucks that people are losing their job. It's just crazy. These are the times these days. I mean, from this story, I looked to see what, if people are actually tuning in for these shows these days. And the number one late night show is still The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. That's the number one late night show. That gets it gets about 2,586,000 total viewers. That's how much it kind of averaged in their opening quarter, which I'm still surprised that many people were watching The Late Show at midnight. And then second place was Jimmy Kimmel. And then in third place is Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon. And then, obviously when it goes to the next thing, you get, pretty much Seth Meyers, which again, I'm surprised anybody is still watching these shows because I guess they're making more of their money on YouTube. But I mean, the band is such a substantial part of one of those type of shows. I wonder if Seth Meyers is going to speak about that, or if he could have cut his pay a little bit to keep their, the band's jobs. But
so I was looking at those numbers too. Seth is almost breaking $1 million a night. That's not bad. I mean, it's not, and again, like you said, surprising that they're bringing in those kind of numbers, but it's not terrible. It's certainly
not terrible. But here's my beef with it, Jess. I want to prove to me that people are actually they have the energy to watch these shows. They're not falling asleep. It's not background TV. It's hard for me to believe that they have over 1 million people live watching the show. And granted, there's a lot of people in the country, there's a lot of people in the world, but how many people are sitting on their couch, sitting in bed, lying in bed, watching the show? To me, I feel like these shows are late night TV. You can't prove to me that it actually moves the needle these days. I think it's just an outdated form of content, and I think what's taking over,
noise.
It's background noise. It's rarely that I sit around and watch regular programming television now. And I think the better interviews now are on podcasts. They're on, these small digital platforms where it's just more engaging and more interesting, more fun. I don't have to wait around for it as much, So Seth Meyers cutting back, running the band. All right, let's get to the number 6 story. Jessica, this is your story, teen mom drama. Tell me about that's going on in the Amber Portwood world.
So, it has been a generally slow week in celebrity news. This one story is definitely my favorite of the week, for sure, hands down. And not everybody watches Teen Mom, but this Teen Mom cast member, Amber Portwood, she's been on since 2010, since the show started. It's a little bit of background on who she is. She has been multiple times accused of spousal abuse. She did 18 months in prison for 2 felony assault charges against her after MTV caught her hitting her spouse on camera with their at the time daughter, who was I think 2 at the time, in the background. So Amber has a lot of issues. She's been very, very open about her issues, about her mental health issues, et cetera, et cetera. So to catch everybody up on that, over the weekend, she went to her brother's wedding in North Carolina. They're from Indiana. Her and her new fiance go to attend her brother's wedding in North Carolina. Everybody, from what we understand, everybody had a great time at the wedding. Amber and the fiance, it was just announced that they got engaged last week. They go to this wedding. Everything seems great. On Sunday, before they start to leave to pack up to go back to Indiana, Amber and her new fiance, this guy, Gary Waite, get into some sort of argument. And the argument has to do with his family disapproving of their relationship, not really liking Amber's past. I guess the family had learned that they had recently gotten engaged. So things were escalating in their relationship and the family was expressing their disapproval. And Amber and Gary get in some sort of argument. Gary takes his wallet and the car keys, walks out the door of their in the middle of the woods, North Carolina cabin in the mountains, and drives off and is not heard from again.
That's
Leaves
nuts.
his phone behind, totally vanishes, disappears. Amber makes a police report on Monday. She stays in the cabin. She has no car. He's taken the car. She calls the police from the cabin about 22 hours later at 4 p.m. Monday to file a missing persons report. She files a missing persons report. It is Wednesday morning. No, we're taping now. It's several days later. The guy is still missing. I've been very much actively reporting this case because it's crazy and fascinating, and I love crazy and fascinating. It's totally my wheelhouse. We're definitely keeping an ear out. There's some rumblings that he may have been spotted in another state in the last 24 hours. So I'm diligently trying to figure out if that's true or not. But yeah, there's a lot of concern over what happened to this guy because he's afraid of driving in the mountains, from what I understand. He didn't have GPS. He didn't have a cell phone. So, he could have easily, driven off. It was getting towards nighttime when he went missing. He left at around 6 p.m. Sunday. So yeah, it's definitely a big mystery. And it's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out.
I'm still surprised. Now, I know this was a huge story for you, Jessica, and over at the U.S. Sun. You can see more information regarding the story at the U.S. Sun. But I'm still surprised there's that much interest. And again, we pick these stories based on Google search, but there's the demand. People are still so fascinated with Teen Mom. But this is a crazy story. And at what point does MTV get involved? Do you think from your reportings, does MTV say we need to get involved and make this more of a show and make this content
part of the storyline?
Yeah.
So right now nobody's filming. They're actually in an off period. So from what I understand, that one of the Teen Mom another Teen Mom cast member drove to North Carolina. Macy Bookout drove to North Carolina to pick Amber up to drive her home to Indiana because Amber's like beside herself and has been up for several days now and didn't have a car or a ride home. So I know that now MTV like cast members have gotten involved, and I know that they're not filming, but I don't know if I'm assuming at this point MTV's reached out and said, can somebody either turn a cell phone on or can we get a camera guy to the situation? But as of right now, they're not officially filming, but they very well might be, starting it up since another cast member is now kind of jumped in to help out Amber.
So how has Amber been, like, this is insane, but
not how well.
She's not doing well. Have you been able to get her on the phone at all, or her people?
I've spoken to people. Yeah, I've spoken to people very close to her. She is a train wreck. She spent, the entire time between him going missing and like Tuesday, I heard that she was up for several days. She hadn't eaten anything. She gave a very disjointed interview to a YouTuber where she was sobbing and she was saying, I didn't hit him. He didn't hit me. We don't hit each other. It was like nobody asked that question. Like, it's this very strange, like, defensive monologue that she gave to this interviewer on Monday night. So yeah, she is not well. She is not well. She is very upset, and in fairness, as anybody would be, but she's definitely afraid of the accusations that this argument boiled over into something that may have caused him to be, to find himself in trouble. So there's definitely, those allegations have been out there, and she's very upset by all of it.
Yeah, well, make sure you follow the U.S. Sun for more on this story. Jessica has been kind of leading the way as far as building this story and finding out every single angle to keep you guys posted what's going on with Amber Portwood. Thank you, Jessica. Number 5, Celine Dion vows to take the stage again. She did an interview with Hoda Kotb saying, and she's speaking about her stiff person syndrome, which is a diagnosis she first revealed nearly 2 years ago. SPS, which is stiff person syndrome, is a rare autoimmune neurological disease that affects muscles and coordination, resulting in muscle stiffening, painful spasms, and an increasing risk of falling. There's no cure for SPS, but individuals can improve the quality of life through treatments including immunotherapy, benzodiazepines, I don't even know what that is, and physical therapy, but hopefully someone else will teach me how to pronounce that word. But she says she's going to take the stage again. She says if she has to crawl to get on stage, she will do it. She says, being a singer, that's part of me. She says, SPS, it didn't take anything away from me. I'm going back on stage, even if I have to crawl, even if I have to walk, even if I have to talk with my hands, I will, which is nice to hear because Celine Dion is a legend. She's the top selling musician of all time with more than 200 million albums sold. She's 56. She rarely performs these days. Instead, she's been fighting this disease, and she's made very kind of, she just doesn't really, she came out during one award show. She just hasn't been seen too much. And she says with this disease, it feels like somebody's strangling you. It's like somebody's pushing your larynx like the entire time, which seems pretty painful. She goes, even if I cook, it's because I love to cook. My fingers, my hands will get into position, and it's cramping because in the position where you cannot unlock them. So this was our first interview that kind of was very candid. I'm happy she did it so we could kind of understand what she's kind of going through and what normal pains of her life she's dealing with. And also it was nice to hear that like she plans to come back. Singing is who she is. All she knows is singing, is what she's done her whole life. She says, it's what I love to do the most. So this is a cool interview that she did that she reveals, life with SPS, and she vows to make a comeback. And I think we're all kind of waiting that. All right.
Awful.
Number 4, another U.S. Sun exclusive, Jess, about Kanye West with his lawsuit and Viagra. Tell me what's going on with this story.
Yeah. So Kanye is being sued by his ex-assistant. She is claiming that her name is Lauren Piscota, I think. She's claiming that Kanye has sexually harassed her, sent her explicit photos of his penis, sent her photos of him getting orally pleasured by a model. sent her all sorts of lewd, aggressive text messages about having sex with her, even though she claims to have never had intercourse with him. And she is suing him for many millions of dollars. Apparently, as part of her severance, she was supposed to get $3 million in severance from Kanye when she departed his company, and another $1 million because she had closed her OnlyFans account on his request, and that he had promised to pay her $1 million for doing that. I don't know what kind of assistant leaves with multi-million-dollar severance payouts, but she's definitely not a regular assistant, I suppose. But yeah, she's suing him, and in the suit, one of the allegations is that he bragged about having a five-way orgy with Bianca. He showed photos of he showed her multiple photos of his penis, and yeah, it's a really crazy lawsuit. He also told her that he had sex with an A-list star and bragged about taking Viagra for several hours to continue having sex with this A-list star who's unnamed in the lawsuit. This is one of those really, really insane Kanye lawsuits. And it's not the first one that we've seen in recent years. A bunch of former employees at Yeezy had also sued Kanye for similar allegations, saying that he would play pornography during meetings. He would talk to them about pornography. He showed them explicit photos of Kim Kardashian. So Kanye is embroiled in a ton of really, really sexually charged lawsuits. And yeah, he has a lot on his plate right now when it comes to like legal fights. And I don't, it's sexual harassment. You have very much sexual harassment. We haven't heard like the words like assault yet come into play, but where there's smoke there's fire. So I guess anything is still up for to yet to be seen.
I'm telling you, Kanye and his lawyer bill must be so insane. I'm curious how many current lawsuits is Kanye involved in, and wild accusations. We'll see how it plays out in court. If it even makes to court, if they just settle in some sort of way. Yeah, I you know what I just found out this week? Do you know? So if you're in a lawsuit and it's legal, it's public record. So your name is always going to be, anybody could get access. If I Google you, Jessica, and you're in a lawsuit, your name's gonna be listed. But if you're in a sexual abuse sort of lawsuit, you could go as the name Jane Doe because you don't have to name your name involved. I didn't know about that. Yeah. I just found out this week. Yeah. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, yeah. It's protecting sexual violence is an important thing in the law. Yeah, and yeah, absolutely.
So
when people, yeah.
No, I was gonna say, like a case like this, does this even make it to trial, or is this, obviously it's a sexual harassment lawsuit, but does this get settled? Does Kanye eventually just pay some sort of money to Lauren Pesciata, whatever the girl's name is?
Yeah, his attorney says he's countersuing, and that she was trying to coerce him into a sexual relationship, which he declined, and that she was trying to get him into a sexual relationship in exchange for material gifts and goods. So it sounds like he's going to fight this one. I don't know if this one's going to be one of the ones that we'll see him settling on. But it certainly gives an interesting look into like his marriage and his relationship with Bianca, because all of these allegations came in 2021 and 2022. And for context, Bianca and Kanye have been together since 2020 and got married in December of 2022. So, I mean, whether or not these allegations are true, it certainly makes one wonder what his relationship with Bianca is like, and what their day-to-day lives might look like.
Yeah, what their agreement is. Lauren, this ex-assistant, is said to have worked for Kanye, and paid her an annual wage of $1 million to be at his beck and call 24/7. So yeah, she got paid $1 million for almost a year of work, reportedly. However, she had to work for Kanye. Kanye it's not your normal schedule. I've been around the guy enough to know, this guy, it's insane. it's absolutely insane. When I was in Miami this past year, I saw Kanye going out to a concert at 3 a.m. His kid was out with him. I'm like, who like goes to a concert, performs at 3 a.m? Like, and then I think he jetted off the next. It's just the guy works hard. I'm not gonna lie, he definitely works hard, but that's not the easiest guy to work for.
No.
So thank you for that. And again, more regarding that story because it was exclusively broke by the U.S. Sun. The number 3 story: Miley Cyrus opens up to Netflix. My next guest needs no introduction with David Letterman. She says she doesn't really maintain a relationship or friendship with other people in the entertainment industry. She goes, I'm not very active or a very active part of my community of other artists and entertainers and celebrities. It just doesn't feel like my people when I'm in that room. But there are certain artists like Beyonce. Of course, you're going to be friends with Beyonce, who she's known for a long time. She goes, I was like sandwiched between Rihanna and Queen Bee, and they are fully grown up, gorgeous, and probably similar to my age now. Towering over me, completely stunning. I'm like super small, have acne, have braces on the back of my teeth, and I'm standing next to Mariah Carey, who's dripping in diamonds, and Beyonce was so kind to me. So she talks about having a relationship with Beyonce, which, I mean, if you're going to have a relationship with showbiz, you have to have a relationship with Beyonce. You have to have that sort of connection. But also, they came up at the same time, even though there was a time difference. But it makes sense, though, because you don't see Miley at all. She's staying very quiet which is kind of rare, but you don't see her hanging out with other celebrities. You don't see her popping up on other celebrities' Instagrams. So I believe her on this.
Her and Beyonce have been friends for like 15 years, which is wild. Since it's a long friendship, to have with somebody in the industry.
Yeah. So you would think that someone like Beyonce would, again, it's hard to become friends with Beyonce now, I would assume. However, they came up together. Yes, there is an age gap a little bit, but they came up together. And I think even I see that in my relationship with some celebrities. They're very successful. I'm working. I wouldn't say I'm successful, but I'm grinding just like everyone else. But we kind of came up together. And some of them, that's been like really cool to kind of see that. Like a person like John Cena, for example. Are we friends? Like, I'm not really close friends with some celebrities. Some I'm pretty close with, but like a guy like John Cena, we have this relationship because we came up together, but it's hard to kind of maintain those relationships in the entertainment business. And I respect her for saying that, like, they're just not her people, which I'm curious who the people she hangs with are, but the people who Miley Cyrus hangs out with must be good people because they're not exploiting her. You don't see random things about her. She's just, it's really cool. And again, you haven't seen her do an interview in a while. So she does more of that interview with David Letterman. Which he's got this series, interviews comics, and he had Kim Kardashian. He has interesting people, but interesting for Miley Cyrus to do it. All right, number 2, Oprah is, according to her friend Gayle King, had pretty much, trouble excreting things from all ends of her body. Obviously from her mouth and her tushy, which is she had a stomach virus.
What a polite way for tushy.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if Gayle feels bad for outing Oprah for having the issues. I mean, so Oprah was supposed to go on CBS in the Morning on Tuesday to talk about the announcement of the new book for her book club, but she was not there. So Gayle King revealed that her friend, her BFF, and the guest of the day, Oprah Winfrey, was not going to be there because she had a stomach virus, and she was it was coming from both ends. Oprah was in the hospital, but she is recovering. She's not fully recovered, but I guess they're helping out with dehydration. She was sent to ER, but she's on her way, so she'll be okay. I mean, I think we've all had some sort of stomach virus at some point, but it was interesting the way Gayle King revealed it, saying it's coming from both ends, which makes Oprah relatable. However, you wonder if Oprah was embarrassed by the comment, but also I think Oprah's just like,
I mean, she's not the Queen of England. I mean, R.I.P. Everybody poops.
Yeah, everyone poops. I get it. It's just fun to hear that Oprah actually does poop because he didn't think, she maybe she had someone do it for her. So it's just nice to hear. It's nice to hear that Oprah was pooping, but she's okay. She's going to make a 100% recovery. She's not all there yet, but she'll be okay. All right. The number 1 story of the week: Kevin Spacey was on the Piers Morgan show and did a sit-down hour interview. was the first time he really got lengthy about his sexual misconduct suits against him, and he reveals that basically he has nothing to hide in his life anymore. He's an open book, and he says that he can't pay his bills, which was pretty wild to hear. You think an actor like that, who's been very successful, had some sort of money that he couldn't pay his bills, but his house in Baltimore is up for foreclosure and will be auctioned at a fire sale. Yeah, so he did a 2-hour interview with Piers Morgan on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and he's not in a good place. I mean, he's very open and sad about where he's at, and he's not sure where he's going to live now. What are your thoughts about what's going on with Kevin Spacey? Do you think, Jess, that Kevin Spacey made the right decision of all people to talk to was talking to Piers Morgan, or was Kevin Spacey not allowed or not able to get on a Good Morning America, the Today Show, to kind of talk about his life now?
Yeah, you're probably right on that. I think that it would probably be difficult to give him a more, I'm not saying that Piers Morgan's disreputable, but like a more mainstream platform, than that. And it was hard to watch. I mean, here you see a grown man crying about about having to give up the home that he's been in for the last 12 years, and how he's drowning in, obviously the allegations against him over the years have been horrific. So it's, on the one hand, you feel bad for him. On the other hand, you're really not sure, but it sounds like, the legal bills have just been absolutely crushing for him. And interesting venue to finally get it out there. Agreed. And yeah, you're probably right. He probably isn't able to get on something more reputable. And I'm sure that having a long format that's like a 2-hour long, who else is going to, you don't have a lot of options where you can just kind of say whatever you want to say in a long form way.
He can't. It's a hard.
Limited.
I agree with you. I think he has an opinion or a story and wants to share a story, but people don't want to hear his side. And it's just a very, very tough situation for everyone involved. If you're wondering what happened to Kevin Spacey, back in 2017, actor Anthony Rapp did an interview with BuzzFeed, and he said that when he was 14, a 26-year-old Spacey physically picked him up like a groom picks up a bride, placed him on a bed, and then climbed on top of him in an attempt to initiate sex. Spacey again today denied the charges, saying that Rapp and a friend had only come to his home to meet the House of Cards star's dog. A jury found him not liable in a 2022 sexual misconduct lawsuit brought by Rapp. When he was asked to explain why Rapp may have said what he said, Spacey talked of forgiveness and offered, "I hope that someday Anthony Rapp may accept that he had a faulty memory." He also says, Kevin Spacey says, "I spent so many of my years not wanting to talk about my sex. I've spent so many years not wanting to talk about myself and avoiding questions about my personal life and my sexuality," because he identifies as gay. He also said his mother failed to defend him from his neo-Nazi father. So that's a pretty wild thing. But of all places, he was living in Baltimore. And I guess when he was doing House of Cards, he bought a house in Baltimore and was living out of there. It's just, this was his first interview to see an actor kind of break down and having to go talk to Piers Morgan of all people, which I'm actually a Piers Morgan guy. I like Piers Morgan. He's been very nice to me, but it just shows you like he's in a dark place. And the interview, it's first time hearing him speak. So there's a 2-part documentary called Spacey Unmasked, which aired last month in the UK and is now streaming on HBO Max. Examines Spacey's alleged sexual misconduct, including a claim that he allegedly groped another House of Cards actor on set. Regardless, the actor says, "I've come out of all of this not bitter, not angry, not resentful." So, I think the guy wants to work again, and he needs to, like his character in American Beauty. I don't know if he's going to go work in a fast food shop, but I think he's looking for work. I don't know. I don't know how this plays out, but it's just a sad situation for it all. But Jessica Finn from the U.S. Sun, thank you. U.S. Sun, one of the biggest media outlets in the world. She's a senior reporter there. She breaks a ton of stories. She's a pit bull when it comes to entertainment news. Jessica, thank you for joining me as always. And again, check out the U.S. Sun for more stories. Thank you guys for watching. Dax will be back in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching on YouTube. If you're listening to it, make sure you guys leave a review. Follow me at Adam Glyn, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Guys, hope you like that video. We got a lot more where that came from.
Hit that bell, like, subscribe, share with a friend. The best thing you do to support us is really doing that. And we really need the money because we need hair gel.